Hi everybody, Elliot Barry, your resident road safety expert from Mobility Engineering, back again for another Q&A. Thank you for sending in your questions, and please keep those questions coming. We love them. And as we always say, hit that subscribe button that looks a bit like this pillow somewhere down there. Help us get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. We're almost at 200, so let's get to that 200 and then we'll get to the 1,000, but help us get there. Okay, so on to today's question. I'll get rid of my pillow and we'll get on to today's question. So what I've got here today is a wheelchair back, because today's question is about using wheelchair backs in transport. It's come through from a therapist who has worked quite hard to find a specific wheelchair backrest or back support that works perfectly for their occupant or for their client whilst they're moving around in home or out in the community in their wheelchair. And what they've asked is, can I prescribe this wheelchair to be used also behind my client in the process of transport? So when they're in the vehicle like this, what I will do is I'll have that sitting behind them, loose like that, then they will sit down and they will bring the seatbelt around them like so. And would that be something that's possible? Or if I can demonstrate it for you myself, if I was to sit there just to sort of give you a perfect example of what we're talking about, they'd sit something like that with that backrest behind them. Now, is that possible? Is that legal? Can we do it? Now, if you want to do it, first of all, in theory, it's not directly legal in terms of the road rules, because the road rules, they specify that you've got to use a seatbelt and you've got to use a seat in the vehicle as per the manufacturer's recommended instructions. So when you look at owner's manual of a car, for example, it doesn't have anything about these devices or wheelchair backrests or anything in there. It just says put the seatbelt on, click it in, sit on your seat. In a roundabout way. So when you bring this product in there, then you are diverting away from the prescribed manufacturer's guidelines on how to use the car seat, which is the original seat in the car. So if you are going to use something like this in the vehicle, you would first step need to do is get a doctor's certificate to allow you that variation from the road rules when you're in transport. The next thing is, can I and should I be using something like this? In general, we would probably lean towards no if you can avoid it, because it's not designed for transport. There is other options out there such as seat supports, behavioral postural harnesses, all these other devices that you can have done or put in, like aftermarket seats with supports and things like that, which are automotive tested and made for crashes in automotive use. We would always recommend using them first, or investigating those options first before you go to sort of, integrating something which is not made for vehicles into vehicles. But if you had no really other options and this was the only thing that you could use for your client, there is, one constraint that we would say, and that's the weight constraint. If this backrest weighs any more than 2 kilograms, then we would strongly recommend against using it, and we would say basically don't use it. And the reason why is, in the event of an accident, as we've spoken about many times before in many of our presentations, when you have an accident of approximately 50 kilometers an hour, you have an increase of weight of approximately 30 times the weight. So this thing can be 30 times heavier. Anything over 2 kilos, you're looking at 60 plus kilos of pressure onto the occupant. So we do not recommend at all for you to have this behind you if you are less than 2 kilos. And where do we pluck that 2 kilo figure from? We'll put a link to the standards below, but basically the Australian standard for booster seats and child restraints and all of that kind of thing, that talks about when to tie your booster seat on, which is a seat support device similar to this, but it sits under you and on your back. And they say in that standard, if it's anything above 2 kilos, you've got to tie it down and you've got to tie it in. So when we've spoken to our clients about this, particularly with wheelchair backrests and the therapist, then their next question is, okay, well then why don't I get this modified so it can be tied to the vehicle seat, or can be tied to basically something in the vehicle? And in theory that would be okay, but we can't do that without any kind of evidence to show that it's actually strong enough for that purpose. So with a booster, what happens with that is that's got a strap that's connected to the anchor point on the car. The connection to the booster is tested, the anchor point of the car is tested, it's made for those forces, and it's been tested in a laboratory or by scientists or by engineers to make sure that it's going to be safe in that circumstance. If we just go and get this modified and add a strap to it, which is what often people do for the purpose of automotive transport, in the event of a crash, it may not be safe, so we don't recommend that. And if you were to do something along those lines, we would recommend that you seek the services of an engineer or your local road authority to see if they will approve that device or that modification. But in general, we would recommend that if you have a wheelchair back, you do not use it for transport if you can avoid it. Try and use other support options. If you were to use it in the form of transport, and if you had no other options, the backrest itself should not weigh any more than 2 kilograms. It should be under 2 kilograms. So hopefully that helps with the inquiry around whether or not I can use a wheelchair backrest in the event of transport or in the form of standard vehicle transport. As I always say, remember the pillow, remember the subscribe button, hit that button down there somewhere, help us get to that 1,000 subscribers, and keep on bringing those questions. Thank you very much. See you next time.